you've done this, that, and the other, and it's still not working out, like, girl, pray. What is up, guys? My name is Tequila, and welcome back to Wonderfully Made in Christ. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on a video every single time I upload one. And if you end up enjoying this video, make sure you give it a big ol' thumbs up. Okay, guys, so on to the video for today. So today we're going to be talking about something I've been seeing a lot recently in culture and just amongst, I feel like, people in my kind of like generation and in my age. And that is the topic of adult friendships and just how a lot of times after we like reach a certain age, after we kind of like graduate college, it just seems to be harder to form and keep like deep, intimate friendships. And if any of that strikes a chord with you, definitely stay tuned and watch the rest of this video. So I've been out of college now for a little while. And so I'd say this has been something I've definitely found to be true in my post-grad life. Also, I moved to a new city a little bit over a year ago too. And just, I mean, that in and of itself comes with, just like getting used to just like a new life and making new friends and building new connections. I feel like no matter what age you are, if you move to anywhere new, it comes, with just like struggles and just kind of finding your way. And so I really don't have like kind of a format of this video. I think I'm just gonna kind of like share from my heart and just kind of share just whatever it is that really just comes up for me. So yeah, I moved to a new city a little bit over a year ago, and it's came with its ups and downs in a lot of different ways. I'd say overall, I do like in a lot of the ways the city that I live in it's a very young city, it's a very active city, and that's great because I'm kind of like in a season of life where I'm living in a place where a lot of people around me are in the same season of life. And that's great for making like new friends and companions and for just having people who are experiencing similar things that you are experiencing. However, I feel like also with our generation, I feel like we kind of don't know in some ways how to do friendship well. And I feel like I feel like in some ways I know like what it takes to be a good friend and like what a good friend looks like. But in some ways I feel like I'm really still learning like what it looks like, what an actual good, genuine, solid friendship looks like. Even though, I am obviously like I'm in my 20s now, I'm in my post-graduation life. I feel like that's something I'm still learning. And so, however, I feel like it's not something that I'm only still learning. I feel like it's something that like a lot of people my age are actually still learning. Because when you think about it, like we live in a society to where if you want to isolate yourself, you can. I'm not saying that's good or healthy or anything like that. It's not. But I'm saying if you wanted to, you could. Like you don't have to like to drive ultimately. Like, I mean, of course, like if you take like an Uber, like yes, that's some type of a social interaction. But also it's like if you don't want to talk to your Uber driver, you don't have to. So you can like get different places. It's not like if you don't have a driver's license, you have to rely on someone else who like does. You can rely on, like I said, like Uber, Lyft, other methods. When it comes to like food, it's like same thing. If you want to order something, you can order it and you don't, and nowadays, a person can leave that on your doorstep and you don't have to have any type of human interaction with them. When you go to the grocery store, you can do self-checkout, which actually I do probably all the time. And not because I don't want to necessarily have human interaction. I mean, maybe sometimes it might be because of that, because maybe I'm just not feeling it that day, but that's not the first thought that is coming up for me as to why I'm choosing self-checkout. I'm choosing it because it's efficient. And also too, like all these different things, when you think about it, it's like they're efficient. Like I don't have to cook for myself, or I don't have to like cook with others, like I can just get on Uber Eats, order something, it'll be here in 25 minutes. oh, like I could drive, or if I don't, all of a sudden, let's say I'm in like a situation where I don't have my car, or I even, because some people, don't have their driver's license. Maybe you're young and you're watching this, or maybe you live in a city where people just don't drive like that. I know there's parts of the country where that's the case. So, you could be in a situation where in the past, maybe you were kind of forced to depend on someone else. Like, oh, who do I know who drives, who can like drive me to work or drive me to school or drive me to wherever. But now it's like, okay, we have Uber, we have Lyft. Let me just do that because it's convenient. And also maybe I don't want to be an inconvenience to anyone else. And so I think that's an extra layer that like our people in this day and age are dealing with, that people in the past, that just wasn't the case for them because they didn't have all the conveniences, quote unquote conveniences, that we have now. And so it's like, okay, all these things are fine and dandy and great. But I think a lot of times they're coming with a price ultimately. And so I feel like because nowadays our human interaction is so limited, it's like we don't know all the time really how to like do human interaction right. And let's not forget COVID. I feel like through COVID, like we were all isolated in some way, shape, or form. Hopefully, most of us had family and everything. But for the most part, it's not like we were out and about having that many human interactions. We were staying at home. And so because of that too, I feel like that has also like affected, like, I feel like kids specifically, but also even like adults and society as a whole when it comes to how to have like quality human interaction. Okay. So I guess like now that I've said all that, like it's like what do we do about that? Like what do we do moving forward? And I think one point that I kind of want to make is that human interaction, getting to know new people, it always will come with a little bit of uncomfortability. And I feel like a lot of the times we don't want to experience any type of discomfort as a society, like big or small. Like when you think about it, it's like we could all take the time to like make our own meals. And some of us are out here doing that, and that's great. However, it's much more convenient and it takes less effort to just like pick up something or order something. It's like it's not like it's painful to cook or anything, but it's like at the end of a long, hard day, what's the easier option? Cooking or ordering something? Ordering something. It's like you don't have to do the work yourself. And I feel like a lot of us have gotten kind of into that mentality of not wanting to put the work in with different things. Also, when it comes to friendship. And so I'm just here to tell you guys right now, especially after you graduate college and you're like a full grown adult, like living in this society, having friendships is something that you're going to have to put work into. Especially I feel like as we progress into other seasons of life. But even as like a young single person, it is still something that you have to put work into. And I feel like this concept is really just kind of new to me because ultimately I feel like, because like obviously when we're kids, we're in elementary school, middle school, high school, we're in these environments where that kind of like indirectly foster friendships because we're with the same people every day. And if you do a sport or some type of activity, you're also with those same people. And then in college, it's kind of the same thing too, because obviously the one thing y'all share in common is you guys all go to that one college campus. It's a little bit different, especially if you go to a bigger school. Also, in a situation like that, you have to put in, like I would say, kind of more effort than you would have maybe had to in the past when it comes to getting to know people. But I personally feel it's different. You're still kind of in an environment that kind of helps to foster different community and different friendships in college. So yeah, that's the situation. And I feel like it's a situation that I have not just found myself in, but a lot of us are in that particular situation. Also, side note, if you guys would like me to make a video about like how to make friends in college, let me know and maybe I will do that. I actually have one too. So make sure you check that out if you are college age. But anyway, so this is our situation. So I think that all of what I just shared are reasons why it's kind of so hard to make friends in general, but also in our adult life, because now we have all these things that everyone is facing, obviously, like I said, being in a society where it's kind of set up for you to isolate yourself if you want to. But also now there's the extra component of we don't have a place that fosters friendships for us. We're not in high school anymore. We're not in college. It's not like we're on like the drama team at like our local high school anymore, or doing theater or on the baseball team or whatever. And so, okay, so this is where we are. So, question. This is our situation. What do we do about it moving forward? One thing I would say about how to kind of remediate the issue is to think about a way, have something in your life that will help to foster those different relationships. So for me, that is church. Church is a place where I know other people who I'm around share something that's really important to me, which is my faith in the Lord. And I know out of that, like if I choose to go to church every Sunday and participate in all those different events, that is something that can help indirectly foster different friendships in my life. Different friendships of people who are walking up the same path as me and who value ultimately the thing that I value most in the world, which is my faith in the Lord. So I'd say for you, figure out if you're in the same situation where you're in your post-grad life, or in general, if you're even if you're not like a young adult, but you're in a situation where you're like, okay, it's so hard to make friends. Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, ask yourself, am I in an environment where I can develop friendships naturally? And then if you're not, think about adding an environment to your life where you can have that. And I would encourage you for it to be something that you want those other people to share something similar to you ultimately, because we do, of course, we can all make friends with people who are different than us. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I mean, it's beautiful to have friendships of people that are different from you, of course. But I'm saying is a lot of times what brings us together as friends are commonalities. Like, think about it. When you were in high school, who were probably some of your closest friends? I'm going to guess that it was probably some of the people who like you were on like the cheer team with, or the dance team with, or choir with. They were people who shared a similar interest that you shared. Okay, so I feel like that's just kind of like how we are as humans. We tend to connect with people who connect with things that we also enjoy doing. So I think I would just ask you guys to think like, okay, do I have something in my life where I am participating in something that like I'm passionate about, I care about, and there's other people around me who are passionate about and care about those same things. So that can be church. That can be if you were into a sport in high school, doing like an intramural league with your city. So if you're into soccer, maybe joining like a soccer league in your city. Or that can be even like taking a class if you're really into art, like finding like an art class maybe that your city or like a church or something is putting on, and then trying to maybe make connections that way ultimately. So yeah, that would be just one tip or a piece of advice I have for you guys. So another tip that I have for you guys also is to be consistent. Ultimately, be consistent about where you are going to like meet to meet these friendships and how you go about fostering these friendships. So let's use church for an example. So if you're trying to make more friends at church, but you only go like once a month, that's probably not going to do it. You're probably not going to make a lot of deep, intimate friendships if you're only going once a month. Now, going once a week is helpful, but when you really think about it, like let's say church is only about 2 hours, and part of those 2 hours, like you don't even really like talk because obviously like, you're listening to like whoever is sharing. So that's better, but also you need to find a way to be able to mingle with people in like a casual setting, but that's also consistent. So I would say take it a step further and maybe join a Bible study. Like this is a really good way where you're meeting people who share something in common that you have, our faith in the Lord, and you're going to be seeing those people on like a regular basis. Also, this is a Christian channel, so of course if you're not Christian, I love you. Please stay around and watch the rest of the video, and also stick around and watch the channel. It's a party. You're welcome to come. So yeah. But anyway, one thing I want to say just specifically kind of to believers is take time after you've kind of started meeting with people consistently. I would say pray. Like, pray about specific people that you feel like would make a good friend, and about people who you feel like the Lord's placing on your heart. So for me, just like opening up a little bit, my kind of like prayer has been like to have like 2 to 3 like really good friends. And so ultimately, sometimes you don't know who it's going to be. So you can have a specific person on your heart, but ultimately, like, the Lord really wants you to have a connection with someone else. But I would say take the time to pray, and pray consistently about what it is that you know you're desiring. So in this case, like, if you're really desiring friends, even after you've done like everything, after you've gone to the Bible studies, you've gone to church, you volunteered, you've done this, that, and the other, and it's still not working out, like, girl, pray. Honestly, do that first, ultimately. But if you've been in that situation, because I've been in that situation where I felt like I was doing like all these kind of different things, but it still kind of wasn't working out for me in some ways. But then I was like, honestly, I'm not praying about this as consistently as I should. And if I'm being honest with y'all, a part of it was like my own pride, because a part of me felt that like friendships should be something I should be able to do on my own. I think that was the point that I was going to make earlier. I think that's one of the reasons why maybe we struggle in some ways in this generation to have friends, or even to open up kind of about these struggles, is because we think that friendship is something that should just like happen naturally. And it does, but also we have to put work and effort into it, especially if you're an adult and you've already graduated high school and college. But yeah, I would say it was my kind of my own pride, because there's some things I know, like, oh, like I want to pray about, but friendships, in a weird way, a part of me felt like, God, like, I just want to do this on my own ultimately. And that's not a good mindset to have. And it's like I was inviting the Lord into it, but a part of me almost felt ashamed of like, oh, like I I'm trying to I can't have friends. It's like, oh, like I'm trying and this isn't working out. And a part of me felt like ashamed to kind of like admit that to the Lord and admit that to other people. And that's just the enemy, of course. Ultimately, that's the voice of the enemy. But a part of me just weirdly felt like I should be able to easily and naturally make friends. So because of this, I almost like don't even like need the Lord, because this is something that I can do like easily. Like I should be able just to rely on my own, on myself and my own strength. But that could not be further from the truth. Like, we really cannot do anything apart from the Lord. And that's something I feel like I've learned just in this season of my life, of like where I am like making new friends and connections. And so, like, no matter what it is, big or small, if it's not, bring it to the Lord ultimately and ask him to meet the need. And so I guess another thing I kind of want to share too was just something that a YouTuber shared. And it's kind of in the same vein of what I've been talking about friendships ultimately take work. And she basically shared the same thing. Friendships take work, and it's kind of like working out. Like, in the moment, you maybe don't feel like working out, and everything in you doesn't want to do it. But when you do it, like, it's actually typically not as bad as you thought it was, and later you reap the rewards of it. So making friendships is the same way, especially maybe if you're more shy and introverted. It's easy to like kind of just stay home and like hide in your room and not come out, but I encourage you not to do that. Yeah, it might be awkward, it might be intimidating, but ultimately friendships are good for us. And so that's what I want us to walk away knowing from this video, is that God made us for companionship, and companionship is good for us. Someone shared something too, like a while back. When I was in college, and I think actually his topic was on community, and he basically shared, this is so funny, but he basically shared talking about like the lake, like Barton Springs in Austin, which is where I just so happen to live, or I live in Austin, Central Texas area, basically. And And so he basically shared, yeah, like there's Barton Springs in Austin, and it's like this lake, right? And it's freezing cold. And basically every time you get into it, it like hurts a little bit because it's freezing cold ultimately. But eventually you kind of get used to it. It becomes more comfortable, you know, you end up enjoying it. And he's basically saying like jumping into community is the same way. Like trusting someone like with your heart, with yourself, it's always going to be scary. Like it's always going to be like a plunge to do it. And you don't really know like ultimately like who that person is, how, because obviously friendship breakups are a thing. You don't know how the situation is going to go. But ultimately, it's still worth it to take the plunge. And I think I'm going to leave it there. So if you ended up enjoying this video, please give it a big ol' thumbs up. Like for more. Let me know what your favorite part was. And if you're enjoying this content, make sure you subscribe for more on this channel. And until next time, I love you guys. Remember that you're fearfully and wonderfully made.